Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mondays with Megan. This is already April of 2023. I feel like I'm just going to be saying that for the rest of my life. It's already this. It's already this. Um, I wanted to continue a little bit with sharing my story. So I've kind of been jumping around a lot. But I haven't really gotten to the point of the actual break with the woke ideology. So I was starting to feel pretty uncomfortable with a number of things that were happening, just in the culture, in the workplace, and feeling like um, there was a lot of compulsory allyship going on, and I was being pressured to either stay silent, but then being criticized for it, or to, you know, speak up on behalf of the marginalized, 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 like over and over and over again. And I'm like, but um, weren't women considered marginalized for a while there? But as the woke ideology advanced, it became very clear that diversity really was only about race. It wasn't about disability. It wasn't about any of the. It wasn't about really. It wasn't even about religion. It wasn't about any of the other major categories of diversity in humanity. And uh, most of the trainings, the DEI trainings, the anti-racism trainings, really were all about revisionist history and uh, really slamming white people. And I started to really feel like I couldn't ask questions like, "Hey, are we actually thinking that getting white people to hate themselves is going to end racism? I mean, is that really what we're doing here?" I wasn't trying to be cute. I was really wondering, um, because it kind of seemed like that's what was happening. So I but I didn't feel like I could ask questions. I started to feel like I was the only one who was not just like wholesale going along with all of this. And so I really very quickly started to feel this pressure to self censor. And that is actually even more dangerous than external censorship. This is about the year 2017, even 2017, 2018. Especially when I was working in the field of social work, it became clear that the only right answer to any any belief was affirmation, except these certain sets of beliefs, which came from what people would call the agent. So, and it was however they defined it. So, the one example that I give that I at first was pretty confused by is apparently there's this thing called Christian privilege, which I get culturally. There are like Easter Sunday is a holiday, Christmas is a holiday, although the pagan version of Christmas isn't really the Christian version of it. So there's that. But uh, throughout United States history anyway, Christianity was probably the majority religion. Um, Now I don't really see a lot of. I see conflicting things about the claim Christian privilege. Certain parts of the country, definitely, but um, I've been silenced and ridiculed and mocked and laughed at for being a Christian, and also um, I know that's actually coming for the West more and more. Also, globally, I don't really think Christian privilege is a thing, and it's kind of ironic because most of the Christians that are being persecuted for their faith, and by persecuted, I mean sometimes killed, martyred, are not white. So it's really it's a big blind spot that I think a lot of people have with the whole Christian privilege thing. Um, yeah, globally it's not true, and it's actually goes kind of along race lines, but that is not something we address because in the United States, I guess there is Christian privilege, and it's just kind of, because we say so in a lot of different things. So when I was training in social work, we were taught that affirmation is therapeutic, and I actually really disagree with that as a blanket statement. Um, Non-judgment and unconditional positive regard, as Carl Rogers would say, are things, but that doesn't mean affirmation. And while social workers and therapists are not to impose their own belief systems on others, on their clients, I don't actually think it's all that therapeutic to just affirm everything everybody says in your office. I mean, that's pretty similar to patting people on the back as they march off a cliff. So, but that's kind of what I was trained to do. And I was also trained that um, I just by existing could be very triggering for people because I am white, and I'm like, well, yeah, if you tell people that, then that's how you tell them that over and over again. That is how they are going to respond. So, um, but that hadn't been true um, in the cultural way that it is now, and I think part of that has to do with uh, journals started requesting and then requiring trigger warnings and content warnings. And yeah, no. No. I refuse to fragilize people like that. And I also think that this is kind of the rise of the safe space on the college campus. I'm like, why do people feel like they need that? But then I can't ask that question because I'm white and no, I wouldn't know and I don't have lived experience. And I'm like, when I was a college student, sexism was actually still a thing. Like we hadn't solved it yet, right? It was actually still a word that was used to describe sex-based oppression, and I, for sure, experienced a lot of it as an engineering student. So to say I don't get it, I wouldn't know, I don't have lived experience of oppression is erasure. So, and is it self-oppressive if we're going to use words like the woke use words? And now the fact that sexism isn't even really, do you hear that word that much in this culture? Not like 20 years ago. So that's another way women are being erased, which is why it is still true that globally and historically, the most oppressed minority group is women. So I kept wanting to go, why is one oppression worse than another? Why are we ranking racism as worse than sexism or any other ism? Why are we doing that? China tried to do that in the Cultural Revolution, but they did it with class rather than race. So it seems very arbitrary to me. But anytime I would actually ask a question and try to educate myself, so to speak, I would get shut down as racist. And so I'm like, you guys are not, this is not helping. Do you want us white folk to be educated or not? And these were white people shutting this down. I wasn't going to a black person and asking them to do emotional labor for free. I was going to other white people because what is the other option? And how do I know that what I found on Google or the internet or whatever, how do I know that that's actually accurate? I mean, that's been the question for the existence of the internet, right? But I noticed so that the simultaneous rise of the fragilization of society, which of course comes with the focus on feelings and the worship of narrative as reality, that of course is going to lead to the fragilization of society, because feelings are fragile. So anyway, so there's the rise of that, along with this you actually can't ask questions because we can't handle it. So we need safe spaces, and we need trigger warnings, and we need content warnings. Has really, I think, prolonged the adolescence of humanity in extremely unhelpful and worrisome ways. Um, and I kept struggling with what is so dangerous about asking a question. Why, especially when it's in good faith. Like, I was being read as someone who's trying to poke holes, or as someone who should be viewed with suspicion, or as someone who has an ulterior motive, rather than someone who is genuinely trying to understand, and who is um, really seeking to follow the directions of educating myself. And so I started to see, I was like, is there a way to succeed here in this ideology as a white woman? Because I also noticed that it was primarily white women who were enforcing these woke rules. And I'm going to talk about that in my next video. So, to recap, I've always been someone who asks questions, and I started to notice in 2018, 17, 18, and 19, when I was working as a social worker, how we were being trained to basically be pass-throughs to whatever service someone declared they wanted. We were not allowed to ask questions because that was oppressive, and we were shut down when we tried to educate ourselves. And it was primarily the other white women who were carrying this baton forward. So, but I haven't totally abandoned the left. As I mentioned, I am writing a newsletter twice a month on what the left gets right, and because I am not about furthering division, and because a house divided can't stand, and I actually am I'm a fan of America now. I was not before. I'm going to talk about that in the video after next. So, some good stuff coming up. You can follow my newsletter and join at any subscription level that you see on my website, meganwildhood.com. You can also find the links to my alternative channels on BitChute and Rumble in case I get canceled on YouTube, which is probably an inevitability, and mostly a badge of honor, I would say. So be sure to follow me there if you want to continue this series, which is going to hopefully last the rest of the year. And I will see you next time on Mondays with Megan. Okay, bye.